Hello, my name is Bart Brecka. I work at a product development company, and we also maintain a school where we teach product development in terms of CAD, SolidWorks, Creo, and manufacturing courses like plastic part design to die casting to forging. And all of our classes are with respect to some sort of manufacturing process, which I'm going to explain in this exercise here today. So in subsequent videos, we built this keychain geometry both from the side and from the top. In this past video, I built it from the top here, and I established an assembly. Now I have to add draft to my geometry, and I expect to have some sort of problems with what I've got to do here. So let's open up one of these and think about how we're going to add draft. So if I add draft to this face, it's going to be split one way or the other. We have to establish a split line first. If we don't put the split line down, we could establish draft on that face. So in SolidWorks, we don't pick the face we want to draft first. If you pre-select, you pick what you want to draft about. So sometimes Creo users learning SolidWorks, that can be a bit confusing. All right, so it's asking for the parting line. I'm going to go ahead and do the neutral plane version. And I have to hit the preview to see the preview. There might be a way to turn that preview on all the time. There's never an instance where I don't want to see preview. I haven't found that in the gear up here yet, but I suppose in a future release it'll be there. So there's my drafted wall. That's going to pull out of a mold just fine. However, it's not going to, I don't have a split draft associated to it. So I'm just going to remove that and establish a split line. So notice that there's two size dialogues. One's big, it could collect a lot of things. The other one is small. The small one is for the datum plane that you want to pivot about. And I can kind of pick all these edges. That could be really slow if you had to pick a couple thousand faces. I found stereotypical SolidWorks users can be quite patient. I tend to not be so patient. I need selection set tools to be able to effectively do this. So if you add a round to these edges first, look, I could roll my mouse over the round tool. Then you have a quicker way to establish the references. I build my split line, I pick my datum, I get into this section, I can right hold down and select tangency. That was a game changer for me. I found it terribly annoying that I couldn't build intelligent selection sets. Okay, so I have to do the same thing to the other side. I'm simply going to redefine the rounds and establish these on the other side. Enter. I'm going to redefine the split line and see if I can't get the split line to occur over here as well. Look, my selection set is blue here, so that means that I can establish these. Now, if you pick one by accident, if you pick one by accident and then right hold down and select tangency, it unselects the one that you picked. Makes sense. So now that I've got those geometries picked, look, I didn't do the inside yet. So now I have to do the draft, right? So I'm going to do my draft with respect to the parting line. Pick my pull direction, and then the same sort of game works here. I can right hold down before I build my selection set and pick tangency. I'll go ahead and pick my direction 2, and I want this to be 5 as well, but I'm just going to hit symmetrical draft. I would expect, though, that if I'm doing draft a lot, I wouldn't have to pick all these. It would remember the selection set that I picked. So let's test that theory. Oh, look, I keep having to hit preview. I do find that a bit annoying. Okay, so there's my preview and completed draft. Now, since I've been training myself to remember that SolidWorks likes to remember the last thing that I did and kind of keep that organized, I see it may be just a bit inconsistent. Let's test our theory here. So I'm going to build my selection set. I've got my parting line. I'm going to right hold down, select tangency. Okay, it doesn't remember that I'm trying to do a symmetrical tangency. and it doesn't remember that I want my preview on all the time. Okay, so I'll check out of that. There's my my geometry. So now I just have to do the same thing on the inside. All right, is it better to have multiple features, or is it better to do it all as one feature? Well, the counter in me says it may be better to do everything with less features. The alternative to that thinking is, if something fails in my geometry, is it easier for a smart intern to fix my failures if it's multiple features? I think maybe it's better to have more features than less. But in my effort to think through this game, I'm just going to redefine my split line to also include the inside walls. Look, I didn't add draft to that. I'm sorry, I didn't add a round to that. So let's redefine the round and add the radiuses inside here, and see how the split line didn't necessarily fail, but it didn't split line the inside pieces. Lots of clicking. In other CAD packages, it'll automatically select that whole face. No big deal. I can still manage. Especially if you're observant, you notice that it's not picking those. So in this draft, it chose the split line. Okay, I deleted the draft over here, so I'm going to try to redefine my draft to include the split line in other locations. And I'm thinking this is saving features, but it might be making it harder for other people on my team that don't have our kind of experience. Okay, so far, if I update the assembly, nothing's going to fail, because I haven't told this cylindrical face to go away. In a previous video, I built the assembly looking at this cylindrical wall. A bit of a mistake, I think. Now, how are we going to get draft on that wall? Well, maybe I have to delete the fillet completely. I have to delete all those fillets. Now, if I do that, or maybe I could effectively redefine them. If I redefine it, does SolidWorks assign this a new number? How can I redefine this and tell it to be a different type of round? So what I'm trying to get to here is, being an R&D person where you're just going to 3D print this might not be an effective way to think about your process. Now that we're going to turn this into a die-cast aluminum part, I end up deleting all these faces. Look, my draft didn't go away. But I could redefine this split line to include the other faces. I'm trying to be effective in how I manage fail mode. Now the draft has to be updated for those other faces. And what I do is I update my parting line face. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now I have to establish my rounds. But my assembly's going to fail because now I don't have my rounds, Yep. Control Z. Doesn't necessarily work in that case. So now I've got a drafted part everywhere, so if I do a draft analysis, it's going to look just fine. So let's see how that affects our assembly. And of course the assembly's broken, and lack of empathy towards the manufacturing engineer. He's got to go and rebuild this whole assembly now. So of course, a more effective method might have been to establish my pivots early on in the design. That makes really good sense. So sketch that I established at the same time. All right, so I have to reestablish that. I hit the space bar, square up on the sketch, look straight down upon it, establish my dimensions as necessary. Now, if I'd have done this early on and assembled everything off this geometry, then I wouldn't be dealing with failures in the assembly, see? Maybe a little smarter. More features is often better. Let's see if we can establish, so our hole, I'll grab the sketch that I built and throw down the hole wizard. Okay, so now the hole is going all the way across. The holes. Turn off my countersinks. So the cool part about this hole, I didn't mean to make it threaded, but you get the idea, is any change that I make to the actual hole itself will allow me the flexibility to make changes to the geometry. So if I turn on this sketch, oops, I didn't mean to turn everything off. If I turn on this sketch, I can drag the hole back and forth. So I'll be able to micromanage that later on. So now that's what I should have established my assembly on. So we'll come back now and open up our assembly and try to work through whatever fails we have here. So I see, yep. So this is a relatively new addition to SolidWorks. Is in the past, 4,500 parts in an assembly would be extraordinarily, excruciatingly large. And what happens is you get so many mates underneath the geometry here that you can't figure out which one does what. So I'm not sure what release, but they buried. Also, you could fetch these releases out of here, these references out of here. So I'm just going to kind of systematically go through those references and reestablish those references. I should have hit the right mouse button. So I made those references, and look, it automatically did the same thing for everything else. That's pretty cool. Let's test it to see if we can flex our model. Okay, nope, it re-referenced everything to the same one. All right, so I'm just going to try to pull this one. Let's see, in the third one, I'll open him up. Oh, yep, find my references. I'll just flat out delete the concentricity reference. Now I can pull on him into a different location and reestablish that reference. So I'm not changing its mate constraint. Whoops, I did that backwards, didn't I? So I can edit definition on this geometry and replace one of these with another one. Sometimes it can be a little confusing which one you're trying to re-reference, and we tend to just delete them all and reestablish those references. Okay, so I've got my assembly reestablished, and now I can flex the model to see if it behaves in the way that I expected it to. All right, thank you very much for watching. Consider taking a class at Design Engine, and thank you for your time.